Good morning, I'm Paolo del Rosario. Welcome to Weather HQ. Today's headlines. Pag-asa says Typhoon Marce further weakens as it accelerates westward over the West Philippine Sea. Signal number 3 is now the highest warning raised by the Weather Bureau. Marce made landfall in Cagayan twice. We'll speak with Governor Manuel Mamba later in the show for the update on the typhoon's impact on the province. In Cuba, Hurricane Rafael also makes landfall, knocking down power in the Caribbean island. While in the U.S., thousands of people are evacuated as wind-driven wildfires rage in California. Well, let's take a look at the local weather as Typhoon Marce weakens as it accelerates towards the West Philippine Sea. Yesterday at 3:40 p.m., Typhoon Marce with winds of up to 175 kilometers per hour and a gustiness of up to 240 kilometers per hour made its first landfall in the vicinity of Santa Ana in Cagayan. Now, even after its first landfall, Typhoon Marce maintains its strength and made its second landfall in the vicinity of Sanchez Amira, Cagayan at 9 o'clock last night. As you can see the numbers over there. Now, as of 8 a.m., the center of the Typhoon Marce was located 100 kilometers west-northwest of Lawag City, Ilocos Norte, with maximum sustained winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 205 kilometers per hour. It is now moving in a west-southwestward direction at 15 kilometers an hour. Now, based on Pag-asa's latest track, Marce continues moving over the West Philippine Sea. Now, regardless of its position, life-threatening conditions due to typhoon-force winds, storm surge, inundation, and torrential rainfall will be experienced in the Babuyan Islands and the northern portions of mainland Cagayan, Ilocos Norte, and Apayao. Now, Marce is forecast to weaken for the next days after it emerges over the coastal waters of Ilocos region due to the possible dry air intrusion prevailing northeasterly wind flow. Now, it will remain a typhoon as it exits the PAR this afternoon or evening. Now, signal number 3 is up in Ilocos Norte, the northwestern portion of mainland Cagayan, the northwestern portion of Apayao, and the northern and western portions of Abra. The northern portion of Ilocos Sur as well, and areas under signal number 3 will experience gusty winds of up to 117 kph and heavy to intense rains within 18 hours. Pag-asa already hoisted signal number 2 in the western portions of Babuyan Islands, the northern portion and the western portion of mainland Cagayan, the rest of Apayao, the rest of Abra, the northern and western portions of Kalinga, and the central portions of Ilocos Sur. These areas will experience winds of up to 88 kph and heavy rains for at least 24 hours. Signal number 1, the areas under that are Batanes, the rest of Babuyan Islands, the rest of mainland Cagayan, the northern and western portions of Isabela, northern and western portions of Nueva Vizcaya, the northwestern portion of Quirino, the rest of Kalinga Mountain Province, Ifugao, Benguet, the rest of Ilocos Sur, La Union, northern and central portions of Pangasinan. And the northern and central portions of Pangasinan, as we mentioned a while ago, are among the areas that will experience winds of up to 39 to 61 kph in at least 36 hours, and intermittent rains may be expected as well. Minimal to minor impacts from strong winds are possible within any of the areas under wind signal number 1. Now, taking a look at the latest satellite images, the residents of Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur will continue to face stormy weather, as you can see here with the Ilocos region right over there being covered in all the clouds. Now, the Cordillera Administrative Region, Batanes, Cagayan, and all of that will be affected as well. The trough or the extension of Typhoon Marce will bring cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms in central Luzon and the rest of the Cagayan Valley. Now, over in Metro Manila and then the rest of the country, there will be partly cloudy skies with chances of thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon. And that's what's expected at the very least. Now, for today, heavy to intense rains are still expected in in Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Apayao, and Abra. Moderate to heavy rains will continue in La Union, Kalinga, and Cagayan. Now, residents of Batanes, Cagayan, and the Ilocos region will continue to experience gusty winds from time to time, especially in the coastal and upland areas, as you can see through this wind forecast. Now, by tomorrow, as Marce moves towards the West Philippine Sea, it will pull the northeasterly surface wind flow, and residents in Batanes and the Babuyan Islands are expected to experience strong winds. Now, as for our sea conditions, gale warning is up over the seaboards of northern Luzon, particularly in Batanes, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, and Cagayan, including the Babuyan Islands. As you can see over here, the coastal waters in these areas will experience very rough to very high sea conditions and may have a maximum wave height of up to 11.5 meters. Now, wave heights of up to 5 meters are possible in the western seaboard and the eastern seaboards of Central Luzon, particularly in La Union and Pangasinan. Now, with these kinds of sea conditions, sea travel is risky for vessels of any type or tonnage. All mariners must remain in port. Also, a storm surge warning has been raised in Ilocos Norte. Storm surge of more than 3 meters are possible. Evacuation is advised for residents living in the coastal waters of these areas. Now, in Cagayan, Ilocos Sur, and La Union, storm surge of up to 2 to 3 meters is possible. Now, all marine activities must be canceled and please stay away from the coast. River flooding is also possible due to the storm surge, as we can see the affected areas over here. Now, to know more about what to expect about Typhoon Marce, we have with us on the phone Pag-asa weather specialist Cignal Dominguez. Magandang umaga, Cignal.
Magandang umaga din po sa inyo at magandang umaga din po sa mga taga-subaybay po natin dito sa Bilyonaryo.
Cignal, nakadalawang landfall ng Marce now out of the Philippine landmass. For those who were in the affected areas, what type of weather are the residents of northern Luzon experiencing right now?
Yes po, habang papalayo din po itong si Marce ay nababawasan na rin naman po ang kanyang epekto dito po sa mga nadaanan niyang mga lugar. So asahan na lang po natin, habang papalayo po siya, may mga pag-ulan pa rin po tayo. Pero lalo na po dito sa eastern section po ng ating bansa, particularly dito po sa Ilocos region. And then yung mga lugar po natin na under ng signal number 1 at 2, asahan pa rin natin ang mga bugso na malalakas na hangin at mga pag-ulan.
Na-mention din natin kanina na medyo wide ang Marce. Until when will the residents of northern Luzon experience the presence of Typhoon Marce?
Ayun po sa nakikita kasi natin, lalabas na po siya ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility mamayang gabi or bukas ng madaling araw. So nakikita din po natin yung kanyang trough, possible po magdala din po pa rin mga ulap na papawiri na may mga kalat-kalat na pag-ulan. Dito na lamang po sa eastern section po ng ating bansa, particularly dito sa may Ilocos region, or hagip din po minsan possible ang Zambales or Bataan.
Apart from Marce, nagmamonitor din kayo ng isang LPA, I believe right outside the PAR. Just what are we expecting from this, and is there a chance na mag-intensify po siya?
Yun po, patuloy po natin siyang minomonitor po sa ngayon. At kung maaalala po natin, naglabas po ang pag-asa ng TC threat or tropical cyclone threat. At sa nakikita po natin, malaki po ang tsansa na may bagyo po talaga tayo next week.
All right, thank you very much. So, Cignal Dominguez, Pag-asa weather specialist, giving us an update about Typhoon Marce. Up next, we'll speak with Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba on the impact of 2 landfalls of Typhoon Marce in the province. Stay tuned. You're watching Weather HQ. Welcome back. You're still watching Weather HQ. Ako po si Paolo del Rosario. Typhoon Marce made 2 landfalls in Cagayan. We have with us on the phone Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba to give us an update. Good morning, Governor.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to all your televiewers and to our listeners.
Governor, obviously nagdalawang landfall ang Typhoon Marce sa probinsya po ninyo. Can you give us an idea kung ano po yung impact ng dalawang landfall na to?
Well, it's really devastating, dito sa amin, because it's category 4 ito, naka-signal number 4 kami. It's basically a super typhoon na ito, and it moved very slowly at 10 kilometers per hour. Kaya we're now assessing yung damage, pero it has inumpisahan niya from Santa Ana and all our throughout all our coastal towns, northern coastal towns of Cagayan, no, hitting 10 towns, no, and it ended up sa Santa Mercedes. At nag-landfall din ito sa Sanchez Mira. So, although ngayon sunny na, no, but wala pa rin kaming power in these areas. And of course, may localized flooding din kami. No reported deaths at this point in time, but we're still assessing, no. And ang destruction is homes, no, and of course crops. Yun ho ang talagang kwat. And we're also assessing yung infrastructure damage, especially on buildings.
So is it safe to say, sir, na wala pang value of yung extent of damage so far sa infrastructure po ninyo?
Wala pa because it hit us last night, no, until early part in the morning. And so nag-a-assess pa rin kami ngayon. Although we have about 23,000 evacuees, composed of about 8,000 families, pero karamihan naman na ito pauwi na, no. And counted dito are those mga adapt and labor na we also count them as evacuees.
Governor, you mentioned 23,000 evacuees. You also mentioned na wala pa rin power sa affected areas. Do you have any estimate on kailan po babalik ang power sa mga affected areas?
Wala pa kaming assurance coming from our electric cooperative and coming from the NGCP, although they are online din at sinasabi din na they're doing their best to restore kaagad-agad ito. But we expect na not within 2 or 3 days pa siguro na complete ito kasi as per ocular report of some people, marami ang natumbang mga posts and the NGCP line is also affected.
Governor, Cagayan was affected not just by Maricel, there was also Christine, there was also Leon. Kamusta naman po yung mga resources ninyo with regards to being able to provide relief sa mga residents ng Cagayan?
Yun ang malaking problema namin, no, because sunod-sunod kasi ito, no. We have declared state of calamity nung Christine pa ito na naka-declare. And that is why dire-diretso ito. And we are running out of that. That is why ang pinagpakiusap namin sa national government is especially on the damages of the houses of people and including that of the infrastructure. Pero the biggest damage is na-expect namin with Marce.
Governor, have you gotten word back from the national government po with regards to any relief efforts heading your way?
Well, OCD has already contacted me about this and pare-parehas kami nag-a-assess the Department of Agriculture, no, and of course the Department of Social Welfare and Development also already made contacts with us also. And we're in the process of assessing yung mismong damage dito sa ating mga dito sa ating probinsya ng Cagayan. But hopefully, no, we'll have partial damage reports by midday today or until this afternoon.
Maraming salamat, Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba. Stay safe out there. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat din po and mabuhay po kayo. Thank you so much.
Well, the Department of Agriculture says adverse weather is among the reasons for the decline in farm and fisheries production for the third quarter of this year. To tell us more about the government support for this sector in particular, we have with us on the phone DA Assistant Secretary and Spokesperson Arnel De Mesa. Magandang umaga po, ASEC. Thank you very much for joining us.
Magandang umaga po sa lahat ng nakikinig at nanonood.
Sir, the Department of Agriculture reported almost 4 billion pesos losses in the farm and fisheries sector for the third quarter of 2024, but yet to account for the damage brought about yung mga tropical cyclones that we've experienced in this last quarter. First and foremost, how will that impact po yung food supply ng Pilipinas?
In terms do sa local production, definitely we can expect lower production this year compared to last year. Last year, we saw na very limited yung typhoon na tumama sa bansa natin. This year, aside doon sa mga typhoon, we have El Nino and La Nina, so talagang medyo mabigat yung mga na-experience natin. And for rice sector alone, from January hanggang ngayon kay Typhoon Christine, we already monitored 800,000 metric tons losses. Normally, nasa mga 500,000 metric tons losses every year tayo because of Typhoon na 18 to 21 yan, and 4 or 5 typhoon dyan, very destructive. So nalampasan na yung normal, average normal natin na losses because of regular typhoons. Ang kagandahan lang, on the import side, we have, as of to date, actually, mid-October, we have already registered 3.8 million metric tons of imports sa rice na pumasok. This is already 200,000 metric tons higher from the 3.6 metric tons na pumasok last year. And alam naman natin, because of EO 362, bumaba na yung taripa. This will help doon sa pagpasok ng volume and of course doon sa pag-stabilize ng prices. So in terms of volume, we still have enough volume that will carry us up to the first quarter of next year. That's our assumptions. So wala tayong problema pagdating sa volume, and yung prices naman, it's nag-stabilize siya, nagtumataas ng konti, but nag-stabilize naman siya.
As like you mentioned, the prices that medyo tumaas ang konti, I believe you're talking about yung presyo po ng bigas. Are there any other crops or any specific food prices that we could anticipate higher rates dahil sa mga production losses throughout the recent typhoons?
Normally, after typhoons, expected natin nagkakaroon ng mga spikes, about 10 to 15%. Tumataas yan, depende sa laki ng volume. After Christine, we registered 2,800 metric tons ng reduction ng volume na bumaba sa Metro Manila, coming from the Cordilleras, Region 1, Region 2, Central Luzon, and Southern Tagalog. So talagang nagkaroon ng surges sa price. But this is temporary. Normally, about after 2 weeks, nagno-normalize naman siya uli. Pagpasok ng ibang supply coming from other regions, at pag-stabilize din ng supply coming from the affected areas.
For those affected by the typhoon, sir, has the DA provided any kind of assistance to the farmers and fisher folks affected by the calamity?
Yes, of course. As of to date, we have provided 667 million worth of indemnification doon sa mga insured affected farmers by the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporations. We already provided 541 million worth of preposition seeds and fertilizers, as well as the provision of 500 million pesos survival and recovery loan. That's about 25,000 pesos each for affected farmers and fishers. And of course, our 1 billion peso quick response fund for the rehabilitation and recovery of affected areas. And of course, yung deployment natin ng mga kadiwa stores doon sa mga apektado rin na lugar.
Asek, a lot of the storms coming in right now, medyo nag-intensify. A lot of it has been attributed to climate change in particular, especially after recent studies na mula sa UP. Sir, are the policies in place right now climate change resistant, or rather climate change ready with regards to yung mga polisiya trying to address yung farmers po natin, yung mga fisheries?
On the research side, we have already the drought-tolerant varieties and the flood-tolerant varieties ng mga especially sa rice natin and corn. On the policy side, we are adopting initially, dahan-dahan, yung pag-change natin ng cropping calendar. Alam naman natin na yung mga destructive typhoons normally happen during the last quarter of the year. So what we are trying to do is to make it early yung pagtatanim so that we can harvest during the wet season lang naman. Kasi during the dry season, wala tayong masyadong problema except yung availability ng water. But during wet season, we really need to adjust our cropping calendar so we can harvest earlier, say September, maximum October, before dumating yung mga destructive typhoons. Kasi talagang itong huling quarter yung mabibigat at saka mapapinsala ng mga bagyo. So we're already doing that, but of course, we need a lot of adjustments to our farmers and the availability of water during early planting para masustain natin ito. So we are also building up sa guidance ng ating Pangulo at ni Secretary Chu Laurel to carry on yung ating mga big agri-infrastructure projects, especially on irrigation, logistics, and our cold storages.
Maraming salamat. That was DA Assistant Secretary and Spokesperson Arnel de Mesa. Thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you. Good morning. Salamat.
When we return, thousands of residents are ordered evacuated in California due to a raging wildfire. The details after the break. Keep it here. You're watching BNC, the Billionaire News Channel. Welcome back. This is Weather HQ. Let's take a look at the global weather. Strong winds and heavy rains hit Cuba as Hurricane Rafael made landfall in the western part of the Caribbean island. More than 70,000 people have been evacuated in advance of Rafael's approach. President Miguel Diaz-Canel said the provinces of Artemisa, Havana, and Mayabec were worst hit. Rafael swept across the island in 2.5 hours before losing intensity as it entered the Gulf of Mexico. The Category 3 hurricane knocked out power in the island, still reeling from a recent blackout in a previous storm. Authorities were working to restore power to the center and east of the island and were assessing the damaged infrastructure in the west. Rafael is now in the Gulf of Mexico as a Category 1 hurricane and expected to weaken further in the coming hours. Over in California, USA, a wildfire fanned by hurricane-strength winds was burning out of control near Los Angeles on Wednesday, with thousands of residents ordered to evacuate and some taken to the hospital. Multiple large homes were destroyed as the fire tore through neighborhoods, blanketing a huge area in thick, choking smoke. Fierce gusts up to 130 kilometers an hour were fueling flames that were scorching through farmland. In Ventura County, the mountain fire had consumed more than 10,400 acres by Wednesday afternoon. In Malibu, Los Angeles County, the broad fire emerged Wednesday morning and quickly grew to 50 acres. By Wednesday afternoon, 15% of the broad fire had been contained. And that's Weather HQ for today. Join us again next week, only here on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Have a great weekend.